To Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hey, how are you doing? Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Grateful to have you along. Grateful to be here as we've got another spring day ahead of us. One day closer to getting back to the NCAA tournament. Very much looking forward to that. As kind of boring without it. There were some NIT games last night, just a couple, and they were good games. I'm not going to lie. Bradley, I think, was playing this. They lost to somebody, North Texas, but the games were fun to watch. No doubt about that. As a matter of fact, I wonder if sometimes you'll get better games in a way in the NIT now because you have some Cinderellas, definitely Cinderellas there that can get some business done. But we'll talk about all that. Rick Bozich on the program today. Dylan Sinn will join us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, and Kyle Neddenriep, as it is also state finals weekend. Indiana basketball boys tournament finals. The best basketball tournament in the land comes to a completion this weekend at Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and looking forward to crowning some new champions. See how that goes. One of the things I cannot wait to talk about with Dylan and Rick today, the transfer portal during the tournament is utterly, during the season in any regards, actually is just utterly ridiculous. But it's, if you'll recall, back during the football season, we had this same thing. You had the backup quarterback from Penn State who had played, who ended up putting his name in the portal. And he acknowledged at the time that, it's not what I'd like to do. The timing wise, it's not what I want to do, but he didn't have a choice. It's when the portal opened. You got to make hay when the sun shines. Why is it necessary in basketball? Now, during football, it was a crossover of seasons. It's a difficult time. They're going to have to figure out something there. Why does the portal have to open for basketball this soon? You're not going into a new season. You've got the entire summer ahead of you. So why must it open this soon? It can't wait 2 more weeks. Are you serious? Plus, there's going to be coaching changes. There's massive amounts of coaching changes already. Guys going all over the place, which is not unusual, but I think it's happening with a little more frequency. Richard Pitino, set to leave New Mexico for the Xavier job, and the Xavier job is open because Sean Miller took the Texas job. Let's see who else we have. VCU targeting Phil Martelli Jr. as their head coach. They're out of the tournament. He just got beat by Tom Izzo in Michigan State. I forget who he was coaching, but he led Bryant to the NCAA tournament. So those are just a couple of the names that are bouncing around as moving. So you have that. Miller says he's excited to be in Texas. Of course he is. He may have come out, of all the coaches that were involved in the FBI sting, in which massive amounts of guys were caught to be not going by the rules, he may have come out smelling like the best rose. Of course, Will Wade also moved on from McNeese State to North Carolina State and said that he's paid for his misdeeds. He's thankful for the job, and that North Carolina State will get the best version of him. I have to say, at least he's acknowledging something. Everybody else is they're altar boys. So I have to give it to Will Wade. If you acknowledge it, hey, what are you going to do? Damn people for life? No. That's one of the things about Chris Beard. I'm not sure that he has kind of done that, but I'm not saying that he hasn't. We'll see. We'll see. We'll take a quick break, and we will get Dylan Sinn on with us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Hang tight. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after we hit the break with these fine messages from our great sponsors. Speaking of which, for those of you, if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore. Cheryl Sizemore will go above and beyond from Brick and Ivy Realty. Make sure you reach out to her at Cheryl Sizemore Sells at gmail.com. Back with more right after this.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore at gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, and joined now by our good friend Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
It's always a pleasure. Appreciate you being here. One of the things that there's a lot of coaches that are moving around, and not just players, coaches moving all over the place. and Will Wade, I mentioned Will Wade, but at least he is one that is contrite. He had some words to acknowledge. He said that he is paid for his misdeeds, that that North Carolina State will get the best version of him. And I kind of believe that. The fact that he said that, he's the only one that I really can think of that has acknowledged being involved in this stuff. Sean Miller, he's not going to say anything other than show me the money. And so I don't have as much a problem with Will Wade all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that the reason for that is that, I mean, he was the only one that was fired for that stuff, right? Like, Sean Miller was fired at Arizona, but it was because he had 3 mediocre seasons in a row at the end of his tenure. He wasn't fired.
Well,
People forget that. Like, it was
that's the reason they gave for his firing, but they wanted him gone.
Exactly, because he wasn't winning anymore, right? Will Wade was
right, but I'm just saying also
yeah.
that bad taste, they wanted him gone because of that. That's not something you want hanging around.
Yeah, but if he my contention is if he had won 28 games each of the last 3 years that he was there, he would have kept that job, right? It was one of those things where it's a combination of you did this stuff, and on top of that, you stopped winning at a high level, and I think that is a significant part of it. Will Wade is the one,
though. Look, what about Rick Pitino?
So that's the thing, is that Rick Pitino, it was one scandal on top of another, and it just became too much, right? And so Louisville was like, all right, we need to make a change here. This is just not, it's out of control. So
it's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, Rick Pitino also had to pay his debt in the form of working in Europe for a couple of years and then coaching Iona for 3 seasons, and he is now back in big time college basketball. But he had to really go and kind of wander in the wilderness for a little while.
Oh man, Aaron is going to get fined. He said the word, not allowed to say the word. We've lost the ability to call Wednesday hump day now for a few years, I think, at least. That's going to have to be put into the closet for a while. But no, NCAA tournament about to get back underway tomorrow with the second weekend. 16 teams left, man, and it's real chalky, but I had that feeling going into it. It just because of how college basketball has evolved. It's a very evened out sport, and you know what? I don't have a problem with that because the games have still been good. They're still good games.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we saw at the very end there, I know that people were kind of disappointed there weren't more like really down to the wire, hey, right to the end games. But I mean, Maryland, Colorado State was really, really good at the end there. BYU, Wisconsin was terrific. Like, you can pick out some games here that were really good. And the way it works is that when there's a chalky tournament, is that generally speaking, the best games are the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 in a tournament like that. That's what happened in 2019. We had some really, really good games that year. Purdue, Tennessee was fantastic that season. Purdue, Virginia was fantastic also. It's one of those things where those are the games where you really that 1 year where it was Kentucky and North Carolina went right down to the wire. When you have tournaments where the teams where it's kind of chalky, what you have is that you have 2 versus 3 in these Elite 8 Sweet 16 games, 1 versus 4, 1 versus 2 when it gets down to it. And those are some really, really good teams, heavyweights, going toe-to-toe, and it's a lot of fun. And so I think we're going to be in for a really good second weekend here. And I think people should really be looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a blast.
Coaches on the move all over the place. The Villanova is still open. People think Willard is going there. Why would he go to Villanova from the Big Ten?
Well, the question is he has been trying for several weeks now. He did not have a good relationship with the Maryland athletic director, but that Maryland athletic director is now leaving to take the job at SMU. Actually announced by Kevin Willard during a press conference, which was kind of an interesting situation. Yeah,
how does that happen?
Yeah, during his NCAA press conference, he was basically like, yeah, Damon's kind of going to SMU. We kind of know that. Okay. And so you can kind of tell they're not particularly friendly with one another. But Willard has been trying to really essentially shake down Maryland to be like, hey, we need to do X, Y, Z to make this program competitive over the long term. Can you get me these resources, this type of stuff for NIL, this and that? And so Maryland is committed to some really high level stuff, but Willard is a Big East guy. He came from Seton Hall. It's possible that he might want to go back to Villanova. He's from that area. So we'll see. I still think that's a long shot, but he did seem, at least for part of this season, somewhat unhappy at Maryland. So if the athletic director is gone and they gave him the resources that he wants, maybe that's enough to get him to stay. But that's the background there for sure.
That's a lot going on, but there is a lot going on, and that's what people don't understand. There's usually a backstory of some sort, and that is the case. Even Caleb Banks back in the portal again. Sometimes when you hit the portal that often, you've got to shake your head and say, okay, what's the deal here?
Well, with Banks specifically, what happened is that he realized that he wasn't good enough to play. Not good enough. He wasn't going to get big minutes at IU, so he transferred down to to Tulane in the AAC. Then he had a fantastic season there. He averaged like 15 points a game, shot really well from three, which is something he had not shown at Indiana. And so now he's probably going to transfer back up to a power conference team. And so it's one of those things where you went down, you proved yourself for a year. You say, hey, I actually do deserve some minutes. Give me an NIL package for whatever power conference team wants it. And so it's one of those things where if you are hopping to different schools on the same level every year, that's when you start to kind of look askance at it. But if you're going to different levels each season, I kind of understand it, because you're either trying to find more minutes, which I guess is understandable, or you're trying to find a better NIL package, which, like, Caleb Banks is probably not going to play in the NBA, so you got to get what you can while you're in college, would be my guess.
The thing is, though, that really hammers home the fact that kids are not, I shouldn't say kids, players, whatever you want to call them, are not willing to go through what players have went through for decades of getting better, of going through the process. If you're a freshman, go through the process of being a freshman. If you can earn some minutes, earn some minutes, but work up to that. They're not, it's not going to work for me here. I'm going to go there. Oh, I'm better there, and I'm going to go here. It's what can you do for me now all over again in this scenario? But I don't think that they're learning. They don't go through the hardships that a player who's having to grind does. And I think without going through those hardships, without grinding, you're not going to be nearly the player that you could be if you had to go through all of that adversity.
Well, now with Caleb Banks specifically, use that example. I mean, Mike Woodson probably told him last offseason, hey, I'm bringing in Luke Goody at your position. You are not going to get nearly as many minutes this year as you would otherwise. So that is a signal to him, hey, I'm not going to play. Like, he wasn't going to get the minutes. He played 2 seasons at Indiana. So he's going to have a third season where if he had stayed at Indiana, he still wouldn't have gotten minutes. And then what are you doing for your fourth season, right? It's one of those things where just the way the portal works is some guys are just kind of, it is better for them to enter the portal for their own development, right? And we saw that with Caleb Banks, where he went to Tulane. He probably improved more at Tulane than he would have staying a year and sitting on the bench at Indiana. And everyone's different, right? There are some players who are like, well, I'm just the first sign of trouble, I'm out of here. But Caleb Banks stuck it out for 2 years, right? He was at Indiana for 2 seasons, didn't play a ton either season, and then decided, well, if I'm going to ever make something of this, I probably need to play as a junior, right? Like, that's one of those things where if you're not going to play as a junior, it's going to be hard to find a place to play as a senior, because who's going to take someone who hasn't played for 3 seasons in college, right? And so it's one of those things where he realized, hey, I need to go to a different level and see if I can find some minutes there. And then he did. And not only did he find minutes, he found that he's a very, very good player. And he almost certainly got better while he was there. So it's one of those things where I think he's probably done the correct thing for the course of his career. Now, if he had bailed at Indiana after 1 year, that's when you kind of look at it askance, like, hey, you probably could have developed here. But the way it's set up with Indiana being in win now mode last year, he just wasn't going to get an opportunity. So I kind of see what he did there.
Show me the money, baby. Show me the money. That's what it's about now. And the transfer portal being open right now, though, that is a huge, huge issue. It's just like it was during football, but at least during football, you have some understanding because of the semesters changing over and it moving. That's not the case right now. There's no reason the portal needs to be open right now. You're telling me they can't wait 2 weeks to open the stinking portal when the tournament comes to a completion?
It's interesting that you say that because we talked to Matt Painter after Purdue played McNeese the other day, and Matt Painter was actually on the committee of coaches who set the portal date, who basically implemented the portal dates for this year. And basically the difference from this year is that it opened a week later. Last year it opened on selection or the Monday after Selection Sunday, and it closes a week earlier. So it's open 30 days this year instead of 45 like last year. And what Matt Painter said is the reason that it needs to be open now, that the coaches decided, this is a coaching decision, by the way. Like the coaches can complain about it, but this was what the majority of coaches wanted, was for it to be open now, right? And so the reason that they made the decision was because if you have the transfer portal open into the middle of May, say, like if you open it in 2 weeks and then it's open 2 weeks later and it's open until May 16th, right? Or May 15th. Then you have guys entering the portal on May 15th, and you have guys taking visits in late May, early June, mid-June, trying to find a place to go. And what was happening then was coaches were having transfer portal recruiting from the spring bleed over into high school recruiting in the summer. And so they were missing AAU events.
There's nobody. High school recruiting doesn't mean diddly jack anymore. Except for the people like Matt Painter. He's one of the only coaches in the country that high school recruiting still matters.
But I think coaches want it to matter, though. Like they don't want, almost no coach wants
well,
to be
they can wish in one hand and want in the other, but with the way it's set up, it's not going to change. The transfer portal and NIL, they're there. You can change the dates to make that better, but they're not going to make high school recruiting what it was. It's just not going to change.
But what they're trying to do is basically saying, okay, everyone except 16 teams is already done with their season. Why don't we just open it now? And so that we don't have that bleeding in. And basically those 16 teams, well, you just got to figure it out. But that's a very small number of teams, right? And that was the decision they made was, yeah, it's a little bit inconvenient for those teams still playing, but everyone else, who cares? Their season's done. Get transfer portal recruiting started so you can get to those tournaments in the summer, and so you can kind of try to do both because most coaches really do want to have high school recruiting as a significant part of what they do. It just makes it a little bit difficult if guys are taking visits in June, right? Like that was the decision they made there. And it was a coaching decision. That's what Matt Painter said he heard from his fellow coaches. That's why their subcommittee that came up with that's why they did it. So
I'd like to know who all the other coaches were that were on that committee, and I would like to know their opinion about it a year later to see what they think. As a matter of fact, here's one coach, his thoughts on it. One you might recognize his voice.
But what my team's done has been incredible. And I'm not ready to move on. So, Judd, I followed what you said. I'm going to worry today about the guys I got in this program that have done an incredible job this year. And that's it. And if that costs me later, so be it. But Tom Izzo isn't cheating the people that he has that have been loyal to him for this chaos that is going on out there. Cool. You got enough? Because I know we'll talk to you. No, because you don't understand. When I came back Sunday night, that was it. There was nothing on my mind but giving these guys a chance to win one more game, get to an Elite Eight, and one more game, and have a memory that'll last their entire life, their kids' life, and their grandkids' life, because that's what it is. And so excuse me for being passionate about it or pissed off about it, whichever words you want to use. but I'm not going to talk about it because it's not fair. It's not fair to the people. You could say it's fair to your program. I'll run my program like I want to run my program. And people have a disagreement with that. God bless them. But these guys that gave me everything they could give me are going to have a chance. And I'm not going to screw it up by spending any time on other stuff other than, I don't eat, I don't sleep right now. So why in the hell would I do something else that might benefit me a year from now? And really, it's not going to benefit me now because I don't know what I have. I don't know how much money I have. I don't know which players are leaving or staying. I don't have any idea. So why would I do that? Waste of time.
That's a coach you may have heard before. His name is Tom Izzo. I'd sure like to see him and Matt Painter in a room together having that conversation.
Well, it's interesting because what I was thinking as I was listening to that was, it's tough for Tom Izzo, but the whole point was it's only 16 teams that it's tough for. Tom Izzo last season, when Michigan State struggled last year, he went in the portal as soon as it opened last year. He got some guys right away as the other teams were still playing. So it's one of those things where you're a victim of your own success, essentially. Like everyone else is just fine with it.
It's not just 16, as Reagan points out. You've got the NIT going on. You've got the Crown tournament going on. There's multiple schools. The Crown tournament doesn't even freaking start until the 31st. There could be teams that are entered and say, I'm sorry, we no longer have a team.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting to see, like, okay, if you are in the NIT or you're in the Crown, how much are you the coaches who are in the tournament are obviously putting 97% of their focus onto game planning, right? If you're in the Crown or the NIT, how much of that is one eye on the portal over here? I'm curious about that. What is the calculation there for a team that's in the NIT, for example? I'm very curious as to how that shakes out. And that is a part of it as well. But yeah, I would like, Tom Izzo and Matt Painter obviously have at least a little bit of a disagreement on that front. But I do think it's interesting because it's one of those things where Tom Izzo did very well in the transfer portal. Obviously he's very, very good high school recruiting as well. But part of the reason that Jace Richardson is fantastic, obviously Fears and Cohen Carr are terrific, obviously. But part of the reason that Michigan State has reached the level that it has this year is because of the transfer portal. And so it's now a question, and I'm sure Tom Izzo understands that and has no problem with it. But it is one of those things where you're a victim of your own success at a certain point. You're one of the teams that's still playing, and it becomes you have to juggle a lot of different things. One thing I found that was interesting in that discussion that he had there was that he says he doesn't know who's coming back next year. And I'm sure there's obviously some guys who are not going to tell you straight up, but part of a coach's job at this point in college basketball and college football, and Kirsten Eddy's talked about this repeatedly, is you have to be having conversations with guys all the time, like during the season, probably weekly, just to kind of get a gauge on how happy are you, how satisfied are you, if you're unhappy, are you planning on entering the portal? Like, you should probably know for most of these guys what they're going to do when the season ends, right? Like, that is part of a coach's job at this point. It's not a part of the job they ever had to do before. And so it's one of those things where some people are probably going to be better at that than others. And so I would guess that Tom Izzo knows at least a little bit what some of these guys are going to do, but I'm interested as to what those conversations are like with Tom Izzo, because he does seem like a very present focused guy. Does he want to know if you're unhappy? Don't tell me you're unhappy. Just go out there and play and we'll figure it out later. Is that his approach?
Really? You're going to leave? Why would you leave? Why would you go anywhere else? What's not to like here? But says that little Scottie Pippen has already put himself in the portal from Michigan, but Michigan. Oh, they did win. They are still going.
Yeah, they beat Texas A&M.
So if there you go, there's a Penn State situation where you got a player who's playing but in the portal at the same time.
Yeah,
that's kind of odd.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where he wasn't playing very much, and so he's probably just fielding texts while he's as he's in between meetings for game planning and stuff.
But what does that tell your teammates? What does that tell your coach?
Yeah.
What does that tell your? I mean, like, to me, it's like, dude, I don't care what you do after the season. Your head is not here right now.
Exactly. And I do think it's one of those things where that's why we haven't seen very many of those. Like there are 16 teams left in the NCAA tournament. There are going to be players from those teams that enter the portal. Justin Pippen is the only one I've seen. Maybe I've missed some other ones. Maybe he was just on my timeline because he's a Big Ten guy. But I was a little surprised by that because unlike Penn State, where they had their you were mentioning that they had their backup quarterback enter the portal before the playoff. That's a timeline thing, right? If you waited until Penn State was done, a lot of the teams would not. He was a quarterback. There are a lot of teams who would already have found their quarterback, and it would have been really tough for him to find a spot if he had waited until Penn State was done, which ended up being in the middle of January. At least that one was understandable from a timeline perspective. This one, I don't know. I guess you're trying to get in early and start talking to guys. That one sits a little bit poorly with me.
Absolutely. We've got Dylan Sinn with us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. We've got plenty more coming up. We'll throw out some names, potential transfer targets. Connor Enright from DePaul is a name I've heard a lot about. Someone pointed out that big 6'8" dude from North Carolina, originally from Gary in the portal. Plenty to get to. From the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, we're back with more right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. We've made it halfway through. It's all downhill from here. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us. Now, Darren DeVries has to put together a staff and a team. That's a lot to get done in a hurry because we just talked about the names flying about. The good thing is, well, he kind of got a head start in the portal, but not really, because it's like they're slow to enter the portal. I think they could shrink the portal if they move it, shrink it, get in. Dude, if you're thinking about getting in the portal, get your butt in the portal. Don't wait a week. Get in, have your mind made up. Here's the dates. It's just like anything else in life. When are taxes due? April 15th. Get it done. Get in it. And so they can do it. They can definitely they can make things done. But who are some of the Connor Enright, the kid from DePaul, is a name we've been hearing about for a hot minute, on likely transfer to Indiana. We have still not, of course. Someone asked earlier that they had heard that Indiana had planned to announce the staff and the roster all at the same time. Well, I don't know that they can hold out all that information, to be honest with you, without it starting to seep out. So they may not officially announce anything until a certain time, but that information will be coming out.
My guess is that they'll announce the staff all at once. I don't think they'll announce like the roster additions all at once. And obviously we'll get those from the players as they go, right? We'll get their commitment announcements. I do remember last year when Kurt Signetti took the job in football, there was one of those things where he said, we have 7 guys committed, but they haven't announced yet, just so you guys know. And I don't think we're going to get any proclamation like that from Darren DeVries. I think it's going to be kind of a piecemeal situation. You get one guy and you get another and you build on it. Obviously, IU is still waiting on Luke Goody. He has officially filed his paperwork with the NCAA to get another year of eligibility. We will see. It's kind of a gray area in terms of the rule. So we will see whether he is granted that. Obviously, it would be great to have him back. I think he was very, very good for IU this year. That would be one roster spot filled. But you're still looking at filling, 8 other roster spots with the losses of Mackenzie Mbako and Malik Renew and Gabe Cups, obviously Trey Galloway, Anthony Leal, Umar Ballo, Langdon Hatton, all those guys. You're looking at 7 or 8 guys that they're going to need to get out of the portal just to fill out a roster for this offseason, unless there are some high school guys that you can get late, which obviously was a Mike Woodson staple. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Darren DeVries could pull one of those out of his hat as well. But right now, you're looking at one of those spots very likely going to Tucker DeVries, Darren's son. I don't think we really need to explain the reasons that is probably going to happen. And then Connor Enright does seem like
and he's also the coach's son.
Yeah, exactly. And so Connor Enright is another one. He averaged, I think, 6.5 assists at DePaul. Very, very good player the reason people are considering he might go to Indiana is because he was with Darren DeVries when he was at Drake. So that's part of the reason there. He is scheduled to visit Indiana next weekend. Next weekend, I believe, April 1st.
Who was that?
That's Enright. He announced yesterday that he is visiting IU. So he will be there. Another one that I have seen is a possibility that just kind of makes a lot of sense is Josh Dix, who is kind of a 6'7" swingman forward, who was at Iowa. Very, very good player, very, very good three-point shooter. Obviously, Darren DeVries is an Iowa native, some connections there. The only question that I would have with Dix is that he plays the same position more or less that Tucker DeVries does. So do you want 2 guys on guys like that on the team? Can you get 2 guys like that? I don't know.
Trent Sisley is another 6'8".
Trent Sisley. Yeah, I mean, obviously, even Luke Goody kind of plays that same position as well. So you're kind of loading up on those guys. Josh Dix is a very good player. It's just a question of whether it works for IU.
But that is more aligned with the kind of the offensive sets you're going to see with Darren DeVries, a one that has ball movement and outside shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think he'd be a great addition to the team. It's just a question of, for him, does he look at a roster full of guys who already play his position and be like, maybe I could do something different elsewhere, right? And so I think that's something to consider. But that is a name that I had heard is they are going to be in on, right? And so I think that there's going to be guys out there, and it's just a question of like, okay, how do we go about filling out this roster with guys who make sense right away? And I think there's going to be a lot of it is going to be Darren DeVries looking at these guys on film and being like, how hard do these guys play? Because I think he made clear in his opening press conference, that is what he wants, at least his first team at IU. That's what it's going to be built around is we are going to get guys who play really dang hard, and we're going to figure it out from there. That's what I got from that opening press conference. Obviously, he's going to have guys who fit his system and what he wants to do. But for this first season specifically, it's going to be a lot about we are going to play harder than you, and we're going to figure it out from there. I thought that was pretty refreshing to hear. But now you got to go figure out in the portal when you don't have that much ability to evaluate these guys, except from game film and trying to figure it out from there. how do you get guys like that in the program? I think we're going to see kind of a mad dash to get that, and we'll see the results of it probably within 4 to 6 weeks here.
Yeah, for players that Indiana will grab, I think the conversation immediately has to be, we want you, we need you, and you're going to get paid pretty well, but you better work your ass off. This is not UNICEF, as they said in Joe Dirt. But yeah, that as long as that is just up front, dude, that's extra. You still have to do what you have to do, or that changes. And I'm sure a lot of the guys that may hit the portal leaving Indiana are about to find that out. I don't think they're going to get paid what they were getting paid. And like someone like Mackenzie Mbako, who is testing the NBA waters, I'm like, you may have NBA talent inside of you, but you have not shown it. And I don't think that there's any GM that is going to take any kind of a chance on that performance we've seen. His motor is very midland. Defense is poor. And you want to talk about a roller coaster of a season. Again, we've seen guys come to Indiana under Mike Woodson and regress. So I don't know that I want to lay all that on him. And then because we've seen so many of these guys like Jordan Geronimo leave Indiana, become successful. We were just talking about Caleb Banks leaving Indiana, becoming successful. There's something to that.
Yeah, it is interesting because I like Mackenzie Mbako is especially, his tools are just so high level, right? He's 6'8". He's long. He is pretty strong for a player his size, and he has such a pure jump shot. Those are tools that are going to make you sit up and say, hey, we can make something out of this guy, right? It's just a question of, okay, is that going to be someone in college, or is it going to be someone in the NBA, right? Like I think probably he ends up in college next year and then has a stint in the G League would be my guess. He seems like a guy who's going to need the G League in order to get to where he wants to go eventually. But I do think that it's one of those things where someone is going to take a chance on those tools because he has significant tools. The problem for Mbako was that he just didn't get a whole lot better between his freshman and his sophomore year. He was basically the same player in both seasons, and you really want to make a leap between your freshman and sophomore year. Now, for me, a guy who's going to get paid is Malik Renew. I do think that he is going to get a pretty significant NIL package wherever he goes because he is a valuable player. He just didn't. The problem last year for Indiana was that Malik Renew and Umar Ballo didn't fit well together. But Malik Renew by himself is a very valuable player that a lot of teams would want. It's just a question of finding the right fit for him, and I think he probably will. The rumor is that he is heavily considering Georgia, which is coached by Mike White, who he originally committed to in high school before White left Florida to go to Georgia, and he decommitted, ended up at Indiana. So it's one of those things where he reunites with someone who he has a familiar relationship with, and he goes and plays in the SEC. I think he'll be successful there. So it's just a question of for all these guys, it's finding fit, right? You can get paid, great, good for you. You want to find some place that you're going to fit, and I think Malik Renew can find that.
Yeah, where did I lose this? Ken has said that Maryland's coach, which is Kevin Willard, is saying some players are asking for $3 million to come. I haven't seen him say that, but
yeah, he said that. He said that after they beat Colorado State in the 32.
Well, like anything, anybody can ask anything they want.
Yeah.
But again, you can ask in one hand and you know what in the other and see which one fills up first. It's just like Umar Ballo. His asking price last year was $1.2 million, and everyone thought that that's what he was getting paid, which was not the case. But if someone is asking for that amount, they must be one bad dude, because I'm pretty sure Cooper Flagg is not getting that.
Yeah. Here's the interesting thing. I do think what we're seeing right now, in basketball especially, is that price is going up. A lot of these guys, there are a lot of probably good, not great players who are going to be getting paid more next year than Cooper Flagg is getting paid this year. Like, the price is going up quickly on some of this stuff. And one thing that struck me about Kevin Willard and what he said, you haven't seen it, but I have, is that he said something about the agents are taking advantage. We don't have guardrails, and the agents are taking advantage of the situation. And I thought that I was confused by him saying that, because generally speaking, like, an agent is hired to get the best deal for his player, right? So if he's coming to Maryland and saying we want $3 million, well, they didn't pull that number out of the air. That's probably some other team is offering 2.5, and he's coming. Like that's my thing. Like, maybe the agent is trying to play Maryland, and in that case, if you want to say no, and then he'll go to
nobody is paying $2.5 million for a player right now. I do not believe that.
I think there are some. I think there are some who are doing it.
That would be a very, very, very select few, and I'm talking Duke, Kansas, Kentucky,
sure,
the teams that traditionally at the top. Indiana's not paying $2.5 million for a player.
Well, they might. They might this offseason. It's one of those things where, like, so that's the thing, is that if you are Maryland, if you're kind of a step down from like the very, very elite, Maryland is not Kentucky, they're not Kansas, but they're in that next tier, right? And so what you're going to have is if you have a player who is like, well, I'm getting offered $2.5 million from Kentucky, can you match that, right? Otherwise, I'm going to Kentucky. And so Maryland is going to have to either come up with the cash or lose the player, right? And the agent is trying to make sure that Maryland knows the score there, would be my guess. And so they're not demanding $3 million to play at Maryland. They're saying $3 million is the cost of my services. If you don't want to pay it, fine. There are other teams who are offering me that, right? And as you said, those are the highest level players, but Maryland considers itself a very high level basketball program. They consider themselves to have national championship aspirations. If you want players on that level, the price is going up. And so like Cooper Flagg coming in this year would probably be making upwards of $3-4 million. He is not this year, but if he were a year younger and coming in, he would be making that level of money, I think.
Yeah, and we will look forward to see how that gets wrapped up. I wonder how long it will take until the roster is complete. Trent Sisley was on yesterday, and he's got a lot going on right now. He is prepping for the Chipotle Nationals, which occur next week, starting on Tuesday. Then he goes back to school, has a short window before he comes to Bloomington, to IU. So not a lot of time. These guys, it's a lot to get done, especially for a new coach that has to put an entire staff together. And that's one of the things I think that Darren DeVries has to deal with. He's going to have to put an entire staff together and not really bring many from West Virginia, because Corey Barnett has been looking at and interviewing for head coaching positions, and he's got the background to land something. So that would not be surprising. Tom Ostrom, no, he's not coming to Bloomington. I don't think that the red carpet would be out for him. The former Archie Miller assistant. His other assistant, I don't even know who that was. Maybe
Chester Frazier, who used to play at Illinois, who was not a fan of Indiana when he was in Illinois, if you'll recall.
Well, who is when you're not Indiana? I mean, it's just like anything. You're not a fan of anybody when you're playing, baby.
He was I'm sure your viewers will remember him giving he was there when Eric Gordon was there. And Eric Gordon decommitted from Illinois and went to Indiana. And Chester Frazier kind of gave him a forearm shiver in the warm-up line. It was like, hey, here you go. I'm Chester Frazier. You remember me from your recruiting visit when you committed and then decommitted. So he was public enemy number one at Indiana for a while. And so I'm interested to see, because he seems to be a very good coach. He was kind of the top assistant there. I would be interested to see if he takes that job, because it'd be kind of a full circle moment.
That still cracks me up. I put all of that on Bruce Weber. Bruce Weber whined like a 2-year-old kid. I mean, he just whined and moaned and whined and moaned, and it just, that never left me. My opinion about him from that has never left me, and that said a lot. But yeah,
you think about it every time that you see him on the Big Ten Network as an analyst.
I swear, I guarantee you, he sounds like a whiner. Does he not? Yeah, well, he just sounds like, and I can see him over there whining. well, daggone it. The best player out of Indiana in years, and we had him, and, well, he decided to go to Indiana now. I'm just going to whine. Boy, he was a whiner. He made such a big deal out of it as a coach. I mean, that was no tampering, no cheating. That was just a kid that did not want to play for the coach who had been in place. A coach was replaced, and he changed his mind. Wine. Do you need some cheese with that wine, Bruce? Mercy. But I digress. But yeah, so now, and it's like two seasons are going on at the same time. We've got one eye on the NCAA tournament, the other eye on the portal and the coaching changes.
Do you like college basketball? Because we have a lot of it happening right now.
And not just this, you've got the NIT that's going on. Like I said, the Crown tournament doesn't even start for till next week. I feel sorry for some of those teams.
Yeah.
I mean, because these are Big 10, Big East, and Big 12 teams that as a matter of fact, I'd love to look at those teams and see who's lost players to the portal already. Yeah. It's just that's another thing. The Crown tournament, how on God's green earth with today's setup of the portal is that thing ever going to fly?
Yeah, it's a weird situation because like they announced yesterday that they're giving out NIL packages to the winner, but they're going to the school, not the players, as far as I understand. Like the winning school gets $300,000 in prospective NIL money, right? The runner-up gets $100,000. I think the semifinalists get $50,000. So like there's incentive, but it's for the schools, not the players. It's not like if you're it's not like the in-season tournament for the NBA where the winning players get a certain amount of money. This is going to the school for the next season's roster, not to the current team. So yeah, you're right. I don't know how these guys are going to be able to keep rosters together. Maybe maybe it's a chance to get what you have for next season and see what you have with some of these guys, and then it's a showcase for some guys who are going to go in the portal. They get one more opportunity to show what they can do before they enter the portal. Maybe that's kind of the way they're going to pitch it. I don't know, but it does seem like I would have questions about that for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, man. Well, brother, as always, greatly appreciate you. And where are you headed this weekend? State finals? Indianapolis, NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
Purdue, that's right.
Indianapolis, they'll be there. So they play Houston Friday. It's late game. The game tips off at 10:10, I believe, on Friday night. So late start, but I will be there it's Lucas Oil Stadium, not Gamebridge, Lucas Oil for the Sweet 16.
So that's how they're managing the state finals and the NCAA tournament at the same time.
Exactly. It's a whole weekend of basketball in Indiana. It's all happening.
Yeah, it's the way it should be. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Make sure you give him a follow. And if you're in the Fort Wayne area, listening on 1380 The Fan or otherwise, be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive. Appreciate you, my friend.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Thank you, brother. That's going to wrap it up for this hour, and we'll be back with more on the backside from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. That means a visit from the man from the Indy Star that knows all, Kyle Neddenriep, and this is the crowning weekend in the IHSA Indiana Boys Basketball State Tournament Finals. Go down at Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and there will be a lot of good games out there, Kyle.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And I think my allergies are crushing me this week, unfortunately. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I think 4 games that have a lot of real intrigue. I think we should have 4 games that are close. You would think. I mean, sometimes it doesn't happen the way you think, but on paper, it doesn't look like there's any complete mismatches or anything like that. So it'll all conclude with Fishers trying to make history and become the next undefeated team, and Jeffersonville trying to keep them from doing that. So it should be a great finish to a lot of fun this season.
Yeah, starting in that 4A game, Fishers, like you just said, looking for a historic run to finish back-to-back undefeated seasons. And then Jeffersonville, a little surprising only because of the start that they had to endure with the injury to Trey Singleton. But to get things together and wind up here, testament to what they went through, and this should be a heck of a clash. These are very different styles of teams to play.
Yeah, these teams played each other in the summer at the Charlie Views. Now that was without John Anthony Hall didn't play for Fishers in that game. I believe he was on his official visit to IU that weekend, but he ends up committing to Stanford for football. So not having him obviously is a huge difference in that game. But Jeff did beat them in the summer. It's not worth anything at this point, but at the time it was like, wow, Jeff. They might be preseason #1. Fishers was losing Keenan Garner, who, we knew was a big loss for them, and Tatum Metzger. But, as it's worked out, Fishers pretty much proved their point that they're #1 again, go 30-0, and against the schedule they've played, they're nationally ranked for good reason, I think. I think some people have them even too low based on, what they've done as a high school team these last 2 years. But, they've got everything. I mean, they're a great shooting team. They play great defense. But I do think, as the tournament progressed, I thought Jeff was the best matchup for them. And after watching Jeffersonville last weekend at Newcastle, I feel that way, especially, because they have Trey Singleton, who at 6'8", he's out guarding Luke Ertl at the end of that game against Mount Vernon, picking him up full court basically. And not like he completely shut him down, but he made it a lot tougher on him at the end of that game against Mount Vernon. And, they do have shooting. Michael Cooper, never in a rush, never off balance. That strikes me about him. He's just you can't speed him up. So we'll see how he handles. He handles the ball a lot for them, and he scores a lot. So they may some others to handle the ball some to kind of free him up for more shooting. You never know how that works out. But then PJ Douglas too, kind of their do everything guy who's also going to Wright State like Cooper. So a lot of I'm really interested in this game because Singleton he can't hurt you inside. I mean, he is a tough tough dude down low, who also has become a lot more versatile with his game, more athletic. And he said he's not even 100% with that foot yet. I mean, he looks 100% to me, but yeah, I mean, having him, there's not any other players like him really that they're still playing. So he's a unique player. I think that'll make this a really interesting battle.
Yeah, and you look at these two teams, their starting lineups, they match up pretty well. I think you've got three players on each team of the starting lineup that are going to Division I schools after this. But I would imagine Fisher's is probably a little deeper if that comes into play.
Yeah, and Fisher's, it's sort of I keep hearing that from people, but they've really only been playing 7 players. Now they are deep as far as they're balanced, I would say. I mean, more, and they do have other players who can come in if necessary, but they're basically only going 6, 7. Basically 7. They play Logan Sigler as kind of their 7th guy. He's a really good player too, who doesn't get probably the recognition he deserves, but their 6, man, is about as good as sometimes they bring Justin Kirby off the bench, who's going to Miami of Ohio. So that tells you about the players they have in that top 6. But the thing about them is they have no real weaknesses, maybe other than just having a lot of size, but they kind of make up for that because Kirby, Gardner, and Hall are all such good athletes. Hall is he'll probably guard Singleton, I would think, on Saturday, and he plays like a player who's a lot taller than he is. So, and then they just shoot the heck out of it. All 5 guys they have on the court can shoot the 3. Hall doesn't shoot it as much as some of the others, but Cooper Zachary and Jason Gardner Jr., who are both sophomores. They're, and Gardner maybe less so, but Zachary can really shoot the 3, handles it well. Gardner can shoot it, but he's so good getting to the basket, he just doesn't do that a whole lot with this game. And then Kirby and Millen McCartney are both excellent outside shooters. So, and Nathan Baker too, who's 6'7", and he's a really good outside shooter. So that's the problem you have, is trying to match up on the perimeter with them, and then defensively, when they're playing at their best, they are really getting into you and playing at a really high kind of fever pace. So, as you can tell, I'm really looking forward to this game.
And Chris Pixadix in 3A, along with South Bend St. Joseph, another high-profile matchup. Desmond Briscoe on Addix, who recently reopened his recruitment after the coaching change at Iowa. Saw him a lot this summer playing with Trent Sisley and Braylon Mullins and all of that group. The big 6'9" Briscoe, he's a banger, man. He opens up some space down low without question. And Crispus Attucks has some history on their side. They got the big O in their corner, Oscar Robertson, who keeps up with them, as noted in the Indy Star. And then on the other side, though, you've got names like Nick Shrewsbury that might sound familiar, as he is the son of Micah Shrewsbury, the Notre Dame coach. That's another great matchup, though.
Absolutely. I mean, South Bend St. Joe can score like no other team in the state, really. I mean, they put up 115 last week on McConaughey. I thought it was the final score. I thought it was 62-42 or something like that, and that was it was a halftime score. It was like, you just don't see that happen ever, especially at this point in the tournament. But they have a lot of guys who can score. They added Ethan Roseman, who that moved up there. He's a Bishop Chatard. He played his first 2 years, but he's a name people around here in Indianapolis know. Really good point guard for them. He kind of distributes to all these different guys. Elijah King is a sophomore too that people will probably hear about in the future and probably hear about Saturday. And Chase Knesny there is their big gun, but he's joined by several others who can really score too. So Addix is a team that they can play different styles. Like you said, Briscoe is a tough matchup. Chris Hurt, their point guard, really good player as well. So between those two, they have the last 3 city players of the year between Briscoe and Hurt. So they are loaded with seniors, and I've had a guy named AJ Jones who's 5'6". He's just a little microwave for them. He came in the semi-state and really played well against New Powell. So they've got a lot of guys they can bring in. They can match up differently depending on the matchups, and that's add some intrigue to this game too. But that's going to be a high octane. I can't imagine there won't be a lot of points scored in that game. And like you mentioned, Big O, he's been, Chris Hawkins shared the text he sent him. He's been following every step of the tournament. As of now, I don't think he's coming to the game. It was really cool when he was here in 2017. And you could just tell the joy he had in Addicts winning the first title since the 50s. So hopefully he does make it. I don't know that he will for sure, but he'll definitely be following, if he's not there.
Yeah, and then the star names, they don't quit. You drop down to two-way, and the son of former IU great Alan Henderson is on the roster, and he plays for University that are going for a state title.
Yeah, people don't know about University. They are a team that, they've been pretty good in basketball for a while. They've been a team that, I think it was 2013, they made the semi-state in 1A. And I kind of came, that was a time where they were still relatively new as a team people knew about. And, they've been a real player in baseball, had some really good baseball teams. But basketball's kind of been, good for them too. And they're a very balanced team. I saw them play against Westfield during the season, and they ended up losing by quite a bit, but I was impressed with them and kind of marked them down as a potential dark horse to make it here. But yeah, they went down to the Hatchet House and beat Park Heritage. And, I think that Park Heritage team was one that people thought could be playing in this game this weekend. So, yeah, University, Justin Blanding, their coach, he was the girls' coach there for quite a while, had coached on the boys' side and then came back over to coach on the, on the boys' side, or coach on the girls and then the boys' side again. But they'll run into Manchester, which Gavin Benton is their star player. He's over 2,000 points in his career. And, they're a team that's really been playing well, too. Had a couple close games in their semi-state. Were able to pull them out. Beat Gary 21st Century, which I think a lot of people probably thought could be playing in this game this weekend as well. So, yeah, that's another one I think is going to be really good. University probably more balanced. And like you said, Josh Henderson, Alan Henderson's son, he came back from an injury. He missed a pretty good chunk of the season and now is back for them, add some size, and his best, basketball's ahead of him, but he's a big part of this team as well.
Yes, Brian pointing out the 1A game, single A, starts at 10:30 in the morning, man. A little breakfast buffet for you.
Yeah, really early start, so it's a little bit different. You'll have also, I believe, the late NCAA tournament game is that Purdue plays it super late that night. So
10.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing? But so it'll be an early rise for us who stay up and watch that Purdue game. But yeah, it is. It's a little different. Sometimes you see that first game, the shooting may not be right away the best. I think that's maybe in part because of the gym. The arena you're playing in is a little bit different, and then the just kind of like early start and unusual, I think. But also you do have teams that played. A lot of these teams played in the morning last week, so you do get some of that with the semi-state now. Depending on if you play at 10:30 or the game after that, but at least your body's maybe a little bit more used to it than it would be otherwise.
Well, it should be a weekend of magical basketball. We don't need that. That scared the crap out of me. And looking forward to all the coverage by Kyle Neddenriep. If you can't make it, if you can, it's be even fun. You can get both that way. But appreciate you, my friend.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely. Kyle Neddenriep joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got to hit a break. Up next, the Captain Rick Bozich joins us. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Moreale in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day.
The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Welcome aboard the captain himself, Rick Bozich. And my, oh my, am I looking at something glorious right now, Rick. I am looking at the WDRB.com sports page, and I have stumbled upon the overtime show prep. A animated Rick Bozich and Eric Crawford, but as I look at that, I'm saying, all right, it reminds me of Fred Glass. If I had to pick somebody who that looks,
well, you know who I think it looks like? Those little. No. I think that I look like Steve Martin, and I think that Eric looks like Judge Lance Ito from the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh man,
do you agree or disagree?
I see the resemblance. I can't pull. I'd go with closer to Fred Glass.
Okay,
on
I'll
yours.
Fred Glass for me, but the Lance Ito thing, that doesn't he look like Lance Ito?
Oh yeah, it certainly fits in there. But nice. I was hoping those were like the little bobbleheads. I'm like, oh, I've got to have a Rick Bozich bobblehead, baby.
They're animated bobbleheads. We haven't got to the point yet. We need more viewers so we can get real bobbleheads. So all you listeners out there, download WDRB Plus, and you can watch our show a couple days a week.
There you go. Need more cowbell. Maybe if you add some cowbell in there, it would put it over the top. Speaking of needing more cowbell, teams need more players, and they are entering the portal by the tons. Nonstop as this tournament continues. That was a discussion earlier. I played the clip from Tom Izzo on him talking about it, and then Dylan Sinn pointed out, well, last year at this time he was dipping into the portal, and Dylan also said that decision originally came from coaches like Matt Painter, who were in this little subgroup, and I'm like, well, of course. He's trying to protect high school recruiting because that's his style, but it's not very many other people's style, and I just don't see how that's going to work. But it's kind of similar to what happens in football, with the exception of during football, you've got the split of semesters. It makes sense. It's bad timing, but that's not the case here. So why can't it not wait 2 weeks to open?
I think it should wait 2 weeks to open.
You should have just said, I wish I knew.
They can't
set you up, baby. I set you up.
They can't get over the hump. I would say, they're causing a bit distraction. They're hurting the tournament, but the television numbers don't show that. They've had some of the best numbers they've had in many years in terms of viewership for this tournament, even though there haven't been any Cinderella's winning, even though there've been a few close games, but there hasn't been a bunch of them. You got a lot of the brand name schools still playing. So I don't know why it's this way. I wish I did know, because it does divide your attention, just paying attention to the games, but every hour, did you see who went in the portal? I get a text message. Did you see who went in the portal? Now this one went in the portal. And it's not just men, it's women. As you know, yesterday was a unsettling day for Indiana women's team, when
Alexis Bergesson, that was a little surprising.
Bargesser went in, and so did Meister. And the day and Lamondola went the day before, and there's rumors of other ones going in. So and Louisville, one of their starters went in, and one of their top freshmen went in. And Kentucky lost their most promising big man. This is women's basketball, so it's really going on everywhere. And it's I think it's, if you're really not going to win the national championship, or at least get to the if you don't think you have a team that's going to go very far, you might be better off losing than you can get in the portal and try and build a better team for next year.
Or sign the players before you hit it for next year. I wonder when you can sign another NIL deal.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm hearing all these rumors of different teams already have commitments from different guys. They're just not going to be announced yet. So I'm sure that's been going on, and there's been back channel conversations going on everywhere, but it's the new world order, and every year they kind of try and change it and make it better and tighten it down, but we're not yet towards a good system. And the system we have now, I don't see how coaches get any sleep. I really don't. I mean, you're always worrying about who's on your team. Are the guys that are there, are they telling you the truth? Are they going to stay? And if they're leaving, do you want them to stay, or do you want them to leave? And what is it really? How much money do they really want? And they've really got to be trying to see how much money can you really raise, and how much does this other school, or are they offering? Is that a legit amount of money they're offering? Is it an inflated amount of money that once that kid gets there, he's only going to get part of it? And I wish we knew more of what was really going on in terms of how much these guys are getting or being promised, and how much they're actually getting.
Yeah, that we talked about that earlier with the Kevin Willard had mentioned that some guys are asking for $3 million to come, and I'm like, nobody is paying $3 million to a freaking college player. Now, I think that's
high
coming.
School player who's going to BYU supposedly got more than $3 million. The number one
AJ DeBanza.
Yeah.
Boy, that would be surprising, because while he is a good player, a really good player, I watched him up close at Montverde earlier this year. I don't see him as a guy that can lead a team to, an Elite Eight. But BYU they've got a hell of a team now, and that's a team with a new coach. So BYU is a little surprising how they have jumped in to the basketball world. That's not a program that you thought of as basketball. Football, yeah, but not basketball. And man, they lose their coach to Kentucky and just hit the ground running.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're obviously.
What is it about the Mormons that love basketball so much all of a sudden?
They took out Wisconsin. They're motivated to get by this weekend. They got better recruits coming for next year. They're a player. They want to win. I'm sure, like a lot of schools, they say, you know what, if you're good in basketball, it's going to help enrollment at the school. It get more people talking about your school. It gets you out there in the forefront. They've been successful in the past, and they've been successful, obviously, in football. They won one national championship, so it's crazy. But yeah, the Kevin Willard thing. I don't remember any coach using his press conferences at the NCAA tournament for the purposes that Kevin Willard used them for last week.
Starting with the athletics director departure,
pushing the athletic director out because he didn't like him, complaining about how he wouldn't let the team spend an extra night in New York at Christmas time, complaining about the facilities, and just really not focusing on what his team was trying to achieve.
Well, and you see where he is now, sitting at home, but that's probably had nothing.
No, he's still in there. They're still playing.
Oh, that's right. I keep thinking they lost that game. That Derek Queen, I forgot. saved them, saved their butts.
Eric Queen did the no call on the. How would I change the portal access and the rules? I would bump it back till maybe one more week, where the only teams that get left out of it are the final 4 teams. Add another week to it. I know you can't do it because the courts are going to strike it down, but I really believe that you should be able to get one free transfer. And then if you transfer a second time, you do have to sit out a year.
But that's how it was set up, and they fought.
And the court struck it down. I know.
Well, the schools fought it. North Carolina fought that. And other teams, but the football player, anything that they could do to get an advantage, even if it is not good for the industry as a whole, which it wasn't. They hurt this, not just them, but those kind of things started this. But all you have to do is, I keep talking about when people ask about Luke Goody getting another year, I'm like, all he has to do is threaten to sue the NCAA, and it's a done deal. Boom, boom.
You know, people push back against that and say coaches can leave whenever they want to, and they don't have to sit out a year. You know, I know Darren DeVries did leave after 1 year, but he's not going to leave again after 1 year and go somewhere else. What coach has left like 2 or 3 times in a 4-year period? That doesn't happen. I just don't think it's not good for the product to have the whole roster turn over every year. And I don't think that, and I know I sound, like old school Tom Izzo, but I think there's value in people learning to deal with adversity where they're at. And instead of saying, I don't like it here, I'm going to go somewhere else. And basically, I don't. There's such a feeling in that the responsibility isn't on the player, it's on the coach, or it's on the program that they didn't do something right for them. And sometimes I'm sure that happens, but sometimes guys haven't waited their turn. They're not ready to play. They're not ready to have a bigger role. I just think that's a change that I would like to see. You can go one time. The second time you can still go, but you got to sit out a year unless your coach leaves. If your coach leaves, then you can go. But if it's the same coach, stay and try and make it better. Because I think back, this is the name that always pops out to me, is Russ Smith. Russ Smith had a phenomenal career at the University of Louisville. Phenomenal. He stayed here 4 years. He was runner-up to Doug McDermott for the National Player of the Year. He won a national championship. They put his number up in the rafters at the University of Louisville with Unseld and Tyree and Darrell Griffith and Purvis Ellison. If the transfer portal would have been here, Russ Smith wouldn't have been here 1 year, because he packed his bags and wanted to leave, and then somebody talked him out of it. And it was a more difficult process then. And I think, how many other stories are there like that of guys who are at schools who wanted to leave but stayed and figured it out, and they learned lessons that will benefit them the rest of their lives?
Actually, I talked about something very similar earlier with Dylan, and I'll use 2 former Indiana players as examples: Umar Ballo, Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks wasn't getting playing time, wasn't getting the minutes. Boom, leaves to go to Tulane, has a good year. And all of a sudden, hey, now I've developed. But he didn't stay in Indiana. He didn't go through the adversity. He didn't deal with all of that stuff that helps in your growth. Then you've got Umar Ballo, who was just a bag man to me, bouncing from Gonzaga to Arizona to Indiana, just grabbing the cash as he went along. He was just a mercenary. So those are 2 different things. But Caleb Banks is an exact player of what I think that.
And now he's in the portal again. He went in the portal yesterday. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's just bam, bam, bam. And it's just, if you're going to a third team, that's a problem. That is a problem for somebody, and it's more than likely you.
Well, I mean, I did a column, and I've seen other people do charts about it, that of the 80 players who are starters in this Final Four, 50 of them have been in the transfer portal. 62%, well over half. Only 9 freshmen are starting, and only 1 team, which is Purdue, does not start a transfer. Every other team starts at least 1 transfer. 3 teams start 5 transfers. And one of those is Kentucky, which turned over its entire roster. But, it's just chaotic out there. And people have pushed back on the narrative that this has hurt the mid majors. I saw Billis he did a video or something saying it was too soon to say that. But if you talk to mid major and low major coaches, they're pretty discouraged because the guys who are really good at that level, what they do is they find, under the radar guys who say this guy might need a little weight on him. This guy just might need his confidence, a little correction to his jump shot. I can make a player out of him. And then they make a player out of him. And then when he becomes a player, it's like, see you later. I mean, there's something about it. And I know it's because I grew up under a different system. It doesn't seem right that you shouldn't be able just to do that.
And I understand how, because we have grown up watching sports, how they are and enjoyed it. But if we look at the business world, which is pretty similar now, it's a business. But if someone goes to, say, WDRB and has an anchored position, but then they get an offer from a network or something else, they're going to go. And if they're contractually able to go, they're going to go. And that's understandable. But they're usually not going to bounce bam, 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 bam to 3 different places in 3 years.
Right. And if you're a coach, though, Scotty Bellarmine retired this year. Okay. He had his worst year at Bellarmine. Well, one of the reasons he had his worst year at Bellarmine is that I think within 36 hours before the transfer portal closed last year, he lost 3 starters. And one went to Chattanooga, and I think he played quite a bit. One was Pete Suter from Carmel, who started and had a really good year at Miami of Ohio. And the third one was Langdon Hatton, who played, some early in the year, but played a lot less once in the conference. And those guys would have all started and been the leading scorers at Bellarmine. And he understands that. But when they left 36 hours before the portal, I think, closed or whatever, he didn't have a whole lot of time to find guys to replace them. And it tanked their season. So I look at it, when I see human examples of this is the positive side, but when there's a positive side, who's suffering because of it? Well, programs like that.
Yeah, and there is truth to that. And I don't know what can be done, though. It is what it is. I don't think that you can put the toothpaste back in the tube.
No, you can't. You can't. I mean, Eric, while we're sitting here talking, Eric just texted me that Chris Mack just lost his best 6'10" center to the portal this morning, wondering, whether that's the kind of guy that a local player, 6'10" center from Croatia went in the portal. I mean, it's all, if you follow that one account, portal report or whatever, I mean, it's just a constant stream of this one. And I don't blame them, because you want to go in, even if you're not going to leave, find out what your value is. But we also need to get away from the name, image, and likeness thing, because nobody's getting paid for their name, image, or likeness, because very few of these guys can earn much money selling their T-shirts or their autograph or whatever. It's just It's being paid to play, to help the basketball team win. That's what it is, right?
Yeah, that's because the actual money that comes in for name, image, and likeness is minuscule. Compared. It's lunch money.
Yeah, you might be able to do a few signing events or whatever or a basketball camp or whatever, but nobody's buying these guys jerseys and T-shirts, not to the amount to pay the kind of money that we're here that they're getting.
At least Indiana, when they had Hoosiers for Good, they were trying to run it through the auspices of charities and doing work for the charities of sorts. It wasn't much still, but it was something along those lines. But but you do see the people out there making commercials, but those are select few, the stars. And if it wasn't for that, very few people would make money from their name, image, or likeness.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Flagg's in at least 2 that I've seen during the tournament. He's got that one where he high fives the people and
that says his grandma playing bingo, baby.
Senior Citizen Home, and he's got one other one, New Balance. I think he's on a New Balance commercial.
Mammy, so, I was surprised to see Hunter Dickinson in a commercial, because he seems like he has the personality of an amoeba. And
they have to make these commercial. They have to make decisions on these commercials so far in advance that they probably did that back in the fall and said which teams are likely to be playing late in the tournament. Kansas, who's their star player, Hunter Dickinson. Get him. That's be my guess.
Well, Indiana gets to and Darren DeVries gets to wade through all of this transfer portal mess, which in one hand is good because he has the opportunity to completely build the program in his image from day one. He doesn't have a ton of leftover guys that he has to wade through. There are some that from Indiana that have not put their name in the portal yet. Miles Rice, Keenan Carlisle, and Bryson Tucker, those three. Everyone else that is remaining, I think, has at least put their name in. But to see that those three have still not done it, and they had the opportunity to do it as soon as their season ended before anybody else, it's very possible that Darren DeVries may like what he sees in some or all of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, they still have plenty of time to do it. I'm not saying they will stay or they're not going to stay. I'll be surprised if all three stay, but
yeah,
you know, there's just a lot of unknowns right now around IU of like who else is helping them. I hope he's got nothing's been announced, but I hope he's got 2 or 3 people that are helping him because that more work than one guy could do to try and figure out who they want and then try and recruit them and
who's available, who fits,
who's available, how much money they want, what's our budget. I mean, it's a lot. And then still talk to the guys who were there. I think I did read he did exit interviews, or he's doing exit interviews with every player.
Interviews with each of the players.
Even the guys who, you know, are seniors. He was wanting to know about
all of them. Umar Ballo, all of those guys.
What they thought about the culture and what could be better and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure in a perfect world, if he can, he'd like to get to the state finals this weekend because that was obviously a big
that was a big Mike Woodson thing, right? He got there. He was there all the time, right? No, I'm sorry, he was not.
I think he blew it off his very first year. That's when the Xavier Booker stuff started. So I think that would be very important for him to at least make an appearance there if he can get up to Gainbridge Fieldhouse this weekend. But yeah, I'm sure he's got people helping him. There's no way he can. Only name I saw was the strength coach guy that was coming from West Virginia. But in terms of assistant coaches or director of operations or whatever, I haven't seen any names, but I'm sure he's got guys there helping him because he'd be overwhelmed doing it by himself.
Oh, absolutely, without question. And I wonder if in the exit interviews, DeVries, in talking to Umar Ballo, we saw some of the things that he said after the game ended in regards to the fan base and this and that.
Right.
So you wonder how much of what he gets from these guys that are leaving, especially going through what they went through during the Woodson tenure, which was not great. And how much they didn't see that because they're on the inside. They're not on the outside looking in. So I wonder how much that information DeVries got was, well, I know it was skewed, but I would be curious to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know. Ball's comments caused quite a stir, but if I had to guess, players at a lot of programs all around the country are getting the same kinds of messages from their fans when fans get angry. Let's not forget that Ryan Day and some of the Ohio State players got bombarded with stuff last year after they lost to Michigan in the
right before they won a national championship.
Correct. And the year before that, their quarterback got tired of all the hate that he got from the Ohio State fans and left and went to Syracuse. So it's not just an Indiana thing. It goes on pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, it certainly does. The Captain Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us right now. We've got lots more coming up, talking about the NCAA tournament, Indiana's path to filling a roster and a staff, and anything else that you might want to talk about. We're back with more on the backside from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy.
and that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the hard truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Glad to have you along as the Captain Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us. Make sure you're giving him a follow. Rick, with the scholarships going from 13 to 15, I look at like an Indiana roster and just running numbers through my head of where I actually think things are. This is going to probably boost the needed money by double at a minimum, not because of the extra 2 players, but they're going to get more. The numbers are going to continue to go up. We talked about the 2 and 3 million thing. But if it was just $1 million each for each starter, that alone is $5 million. That's what was thought to be the NIL bank load for Indiana last season. So, man, it is going to continue to climb, but the revenue share kicks in next year, which I am sure is going to help not only Indiana, but a lot of teams who maybe didn't have the NIL systems in place. I'm not sure what Purdue's NIL situation is really like, so I can't comment to that, but teams that are lower in the Big Ten, Northwestern, for gosh sakes, think about a guy like Chris Collins, who now will have NIL bucks to spend.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, it should level out the playing field some. I'm going to be curious to see how many coaches actually have 15 scholarship guys. It's hard enough to keep 8
Exactly.
or 10. 15, you got 8 are going to play and 7 aren't going to play much. And you got to have 7 really special kids to be happy with not playing much.
Well, I guess they're still glorified. I hate to say this, I don't mean it negatively, but they're in essence glorified walk-ons for practice, for practice during injuries and whatnot. And
is that what the deal is too? If you have 15, there's no more walk-ons. Is that what it's going to be?
I think that is the case. It's why it went up, but I have to double check that. In football, I think that is the case. They raised the number, but we'll have to. I think they're just trying to get everything into one bucket. That part of it, I guess, makes sense. And instead of walk-ons, I think you should still be able to have practice players, like the women's programs usually have, men's practice players to practice against. And I don't see why you shouldn't be able to do it, because some of the rules are just stupid. I'm like, so you can do this, but you can't say a recruit's name before they have signed a commitment agreement or whatever. I'm like, that's one of the dumbest things in the history of the world. Everybody knows who the hell we're talking about. You can pay them $3 million, but we can't say their name yet.
Yeah, that's a pretty archaic rule from a different time when recruiting was conducted in a different way. I imagine it'll go away at some point, but
How would you like to be Michigan and Justin Pippen in the portal while they're playing in the NCAA tournament?
Well, wasn't there another game where a guy put his name in the portal 30 minutes after they lost in the NCAA tournament? I saw that one. So that immediately someone asked who's going to be the first guy to put his name in the portal at halftime of a game in the NCAA tournament, and it will happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
Somebody will lose control of their emotions and do it at halftime just because they're not happy.
If Umar Ballo had been a junior, I could have seen him doing that after I was going to say after the Purdue game, but the portal wasn't open.
Well, let me ask you, what is it? Indiana has actually like one player? Is that right for sure? Sisley?
Chris Sisley is coming for sure. Yes. He's their only 2025 commitment. Zerno decommitted. I'm not sure where he is yet. But at the same time, I don't know how many freshmen DeVries is going to want to bring in. Now, I'm of the belief that you absolutely do not want to bring in more than 3 freshmen. Now, with the expanded scholarship model, maybe that changes a little bit. Maybe you can bring in an extra 2 guys to fill those 2 spots. But you're probably looking at a couple of guys that you are training, that you are going to build up for them to transfer out, because unless they're really good, and if they're really good, they're going to be giving you minutes.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're kids that really just always dreamed of playing for Indiana. If they're out-of-state kids and they came, I could see the path to being unhappy and transferring would be a lot shorter path. And then they got 3 who aren't in the portal yet. You said it right: Rice, Carlisle, and Tucker. So theoretically 4. So they need at least 11 players at this point.
Well, you got Tucker DeVries.
Oh, that's right. Tucker DeVries is going to come. So they really have 2 players. They got Tucker DeVries and Sisley.
They've got to find some good core pieces. I mean, the way that DeVries
I've read it. There's like some point guard too from DePaul that's probably coming. Connor Enright,
who I watched some videos on him.
Drake.
Everybody says, "Oh, his stats aren't great." This dude could shoot, man. Watching him shoot, I'm like, okay, IU does not have a player like that will take the shot. This guy takes the shot. He doesn't have to worry how to be perfect. I'm like, boom, that would work.
He had a high assist. Wasn't he one of the top assist guys in the Big East too?
He's a good player. I mean, he was not on a great team.
Right.
But yeah, it would be interesting to see if a lot of people have asked about Braylon Mullins, and no, I don't see him reneging on his commitment to Connecticut. Number one, he can always leave. But I don't see that. And he's a freshman. I don't think that Darren's, and I'm not on a first name basis with him, but I don't think he's going to be looking for that many freshmen right now. Maybe he's looking at it some for the future, but he has to build a team that can compete now in the Big Ten next season. So that is not going to be predicated on freshmen. Not that he doesn't want to get that started, but it's a lot to build at the same time, because you're building 2 different things. You're building for today and for tomorrow.
Right. And he did that at West Virginia though last year. He built that team out of the portal. I mean, he got Small, who's actually a kid from South Bend originally. There we go. He's already talked and met with some key people in the state, reached out to AAU people, and been involved with the basketball coaches. That's what you want to do. You want to.
Well, and I know this. I know that he's met with Sisley's parents. He's talked to Trent. Was on with us yesterday. He called Trent 30 minutes after the announcement.
Oh, Trent, the player, was on yesterday?
Trent Sisley, yeah. And so the coach called him 30 minutes after it was announced. And I'm like, well, that shows that you're a priority, because there's always concern. Is this coach going to want me? And obviously it was. They'll visit next week. The high school Chipotle Nationals happen at Hamilton Southeastern High School beginning on Tuesday. And last year, I think that was, when is the period close for coaches?
I think it's closed around the Final Four,
because they were not able to go to the Chipotle Nationals, which starts on the 2nd. So it'll be interesting to see if he can go up there or not this year. I'm not sure. I'll have to check and see when those dates run out.
Most of the coaches go to the city where the Final Four is. It's a big coaches convention thing. They have It's where guys line up jobs and stuff. And I imagine we'll know more about the IU staff after that all takes place. And I'm sure he's working on it right now. It sounds like, from what I've read, a couple of the guys he's working on are assistants at teams that are still playing in the tournament.
And that makes it rougher because those guys are going to have contacts with players that you might want to have, and that just strings that out a little further. Not that it matters to me, but just hope that you get those, because when you don't, now you have to start plugging in with pieces that you may have wished that you had gotten beforehand.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the best thing about this. I mean, for DeVries, he just did this last year. He knows, I'm sure he learned a lot from last year. How did I do it? What could I have done better? Who do I need to get in here? How many people do I need to do it? And what players should I talk to? I went back and looked part of his history. He's got a pretty strong history of, it was an article on Peegs actually, and said that when he was at Drake, he recruited Indiana a ton, and Creighton and Drake, and he had a bunch of players, mainly from Northwest Indiana, actually. But he does have familiarity with the state of Indiana. And the one thing we haven't talked about is, I mean, haven't two of his recruits from West Virginia decommitted? I would imagine they would possibly be in play to come to Indiana.
Yeah, I think that I would expect that as well. But before that, there's all the stuff that has to take place beforehand. I'm not sure that they want to do it very quickly either to further aggravate West Virginia fans, which not that matters.
West Virginia hasn't hired a coach yet, right?
That is correct. So now they get on it, and I know one that's available. Someone earlier had mentioned I don't know that this is true, so I'm not saying this, but that Woody had not cleaned his office out yet, that he was dragging his feet. I do not know that, so please do not take that for gospel. So there's there. Yeah, I don't know who West Virginia is going to get, but they've got $6 million to put in the bank to start with. So it's a good get for West Virginia. And you look at New Mexico, man, they had a great season. Now you lose Richard Pitino, and they just lost one of their best players to the portal. That's the thing, man. They're not going to be happy, but hey, you just had a better season than Indiana has had in 15 years or close to it. So enjoy the hell out of it while you can.
Yeah, I mean, they've had good coaches at that job. I mean, Alford was there. Remember that? Fran Fraschilla coached there. I mean,
he's done well at that level. Nevada and New Mexico.
Right. I don't know. We'll see what Indiana does. I'll be looking to see what kind of presidents DeVries has this weekend at the state finals. And if I were him, you could call Braylon Mullins and congratulate him on his season and congratulate him on Mr. Basketball and, say you've been an admirer of him and whatever, and let it go at that. And,
I like Todd Leary's idea. I would be showing up. He said I'd show up at his house and ask him if he needs a ride to school.
Well, there you go. But I think then you move on to the class of 2026. I don't know. I mean, what about Singleton? Is that a guy? Do you try and get him?
That's something I've always wondered, because he's coached by a former Hoosier who is a hell of a coach. Sharon Wilkerson is just a great coach, great person. Trey Singleton's a hell of a player. Got size. He's 6'8". I think he's someone that they should look at. I knew that was not someone that Woodson would look at because he wasn't didn't have this name behind him, I guess.
Yeah, Jeffersonville's too far from Bloomington. He couldn't get down there to see him.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half away, man. That's but I guess they couldn't get the private jet to land there at Haps, so he had to wait. But yeah, I think it's someone that he should look at, because that's a kid who has really grown. I mean, in his last season, he's really a really good player, and getting those home state players has different advantages. You've got, even with this transfer portal era, you still have to keep culture and build a culture, and it's kind of not been there for a while. It's one of the things that Trent Sisley mentioned, said, hey, I really want to be a part of getting IU basketball back to where it needs to be. And not a lot of players are going to think or say that, because they can't remember the damn history, because there's not any history in their lifetime. But fortunately for him, he grew up in a family that were IU fans, and so he does know the history. And you have guys that are serious about that. I mean, Trace Jackson Davis was like that, and some of the other guys. But boy, you sure lose a lot when these players are just coming from all over each year. It's a whole different group.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sense that this year's team, it was transactional. I mean, the reason they're at IU was how much money they paid them, not because there was any overwhelming sense of they wanted to play for Indiana, or they knew what Indiana basketball was all about, or they knew what the expectations were at Indiana basketball. It was like, who's going to offer me the most money? And I'm sure that was the case for Ballo, and I would suspect it was the same case. Rice and Carlisle might have been a little bit different because I think they had some kind of pre-existing relationship with Yasir Rosemond. But, you want to – I can say from being around it up close and personal that Louisville built a better team with a lot less NIL money. And the most impressive thing that Pat Kelsey did was that he got guys who did buy into the culture and played in many ways for each other and for the right reasons. And they weren't as many big name guys. Hepburn was, but Terrence Edwards and Javon Hadley and Rain Smith and some of these dudes, they were here for the right reason.
Yeah, they even have a theme song. Bag boys, what you going to do? Bag boys. I'm gonna have to record that. How about Fran McCaffrey over in the Ivy League?
Wow. Good for him.
Ooh.
It's his alma mater, I think. Didn't he play there?
Yeah,
I read.
I did not know that.
I think he did. Good for him. He's not done yet. He knew Iowa was going to
I can't wait. I want more FranCon. FranCon 9.
He's going to a one-bid league, so he can keep his cool until he gets to the Ivy League tournament.
Well, yeah. Just keep on rolling, man. He's got the money. The coaches at this level, they have the money. They don't have to do it anymore, but what else would they do other than TV?
Yeah, and isn't his son going to play for Mata?
Anybody but him?
His youngest son? Yeah.
I think he'd already transferred there last season.
He did.
Yeah. So his family's in Indianapolis. His other son's in Indy working for the old.
Yeah, Fran played at Penn, so he's going back home.
Well, there you go. That helped him out as well. But, man, it's going to be interesting when we start hearing some names and start seeing things put together. But I think that Indiana fans are going to get a good dose of basketball next year. I think they're going to see a team that plays hard, that plays with fundamentals, that does the things they need to do. And wherever the chips fall, they'll fall. But I think that they're going to have a competitive team because there's no reason they shouldn't have had over the last 8 years.
I agree. And Archie didn't do much this year at Rhode Island. I think Archie starts next year close to the hot seat. He hadn't really gotten it going there at all at Rhode Island. In fact, they started well and then they faded. And I'll be surprised if Mike Woodson coaches again. Maybe he will in the NBA as an assistant coach, but I don't think he'll be a head coach again. So
and the proud thing that I am of our first.
Oh, he's so proud. Nope. Well, what's up next for you, brother?
I'm heading to Indianapolis tomorrow. Kentucky press conference, and they get ready to play Tennessee. The other game is obviously Kelvin Sampson against Purdue. So a lot of
all kinds of ties there, baby.
Yeah, a lot of IU interest up there, but Kentucky's already beaten Tennessee twice. Can they do it a third time?
No, that is not going to happen.
Tennessee's a 4.5-point favorite. So we'll see.
And next year, don't forget Kentucky, Indiana.
In Rupp, yeah. In Rupp.
Cannot wait for that.
They're playing. Where's that game with Marquette? Where are they going to play them? New York or Chicago. That's in Chicago.
There you go. Well, brother, we appreciate it as always.
All right. Tomorrow, first pitch.
The Sox on the clock.
That's right. Play the Angels tomorrow in Chicago. It'll be a balmy 27 degrees probably.
I'm so sick and tired of this cold weather. I can't wait to this weekend. Appreciate you, my friend.
Have a good
Rick
weekend.
Bozich, you too, my friend. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Grateful to each and every one of you. Go out, have yourselves a great day. We're back tomorrow to do it all again Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.